Pastor Terry Jones was denied entry into Canada this week on his way to speak at an event in Toronto. While the government had no power to bar the controversial pastor, a proposed bill would grant the immigration minister the power to determine who would be allowed into the country. For more on this, we're joined by immigration lawyer Omar. Thanks very much for joining us, Omar.
Yes. Hello, Jennifer. Thank you.
What kind of powers would Bill C-43 give the immigration minister?
Oh, it gives him very sweeping powers. He has the power to grant, he has unfettered discretion to give anybody entry. He can bar entry for anyone. And as a matter of fact, he can even bar a person from getting permanent residence with absolutely no oversight whatsoever.
Too much power, do you think?
Yes, I think so. We don't live in an autocracy the last time I checked.
So what kinds of restrictions are there now that prevent someone from entering Canada?
Well, the CBSA, that's the Canada Border Services Agency, they do have a policy manual that dictates how a person would be able to come in or not come in. So, for example, a foreign national from, say, the United States could be barred entry into Canada for circumstances such as having a criminal record, a person who could be determined to be inciting a violent event, which is probably, in my opinion, what really drove CBSA officials to stop Mr. Jones from entering into Canada, because I think they were afraid of demonstrations and possible violent outclashes from that.
If C-43 passes, could this be used to bar entry to Canada for political reasons?
Well, yes, the politicization is going to be a critical component. Let's not recall, for example, the George Galloway situation, the MP from the UK. Yeah, he clearly had a message that the Canadian government, the Harper government, didn't approve of, being that of a pro-Palestinian, anti-war in Afghanistan. And Justice Mosley in the federal court was highly critical of the Canadian government for essentially barring him from coming into Canada simply because they didn't like his messaging. Ultimately, he did come in, he did get his message out, but I mean, that is an example of a political decision that would bar a person who shouldn't really be restricted from coming in.
It sounds quite controversial. What do you think the chances of C-43 passing?
They have a majority government, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's the problem. But I mean, what we're really talking about here, you see, is there's a famous quote from Justice Harrington in the Anand decision that the principles of natural justice should never be altered at the, should never be sacrificed at the altar of administrative efficiency. That justice should be done and should also be seen to be done. So, I mean, what is really problematic with C-43, in addition to this fact about barring people entry and exit, is the fact that they want to reduce the, like normally at this stage right now, a person who's sentenced to 2 years or more in a sentence, criminal sentence, would be basically deported. Now they're seeking to reduce that to 6 months. So that would capture, in essence, you know, minor crimes that I would submit, such as, you know, unlawful use of a computer, credit card fraud. So things that would not normally be deportable events can now be deportable. So, I mean, they got a flashy name for Bill C-43. It's called the Faster Removal of Foreign Criminals Act. So, I mean, if you look at the title, who's going to argue with that? But when you look at the fact of, you know, we're dealing with people who are permanent residents, who could be here for 20, 30, 40 years, who all of a sudden can be caught in for something even like a domestic assault, you know, that would not be deportable. And it's going to have immense complications and impact to family members, such as children. So what this bill essentially does is it takes away the humanitarian and compassionate discretion that the system has already in place by virtue of specialized tribunals and the courts.
All right, Omar, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.